Hi everybody, it's me, Bev Flanagan, and welcome to my next edition of the BFF Show. And today I'm joined by Shazy Nicholls. Shazy, please can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, hello everybody, and hello Bev, and thank you for having me on your show today. My name is Shazy Nicholls, and I am the childhood warrior. So I support young people and adult survivors to find their inner warrior.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to put a little ticker at the bottom. Look at me, all being all technical. See that? Look at that.
Ooh,
so yes, as it says there, if you've got any questions whatsoever for Shazy while we've got her on this live, let's use her for any questions that you may have. I'll keep popping that up in a little while as well, so you can keep seeing that we are encouraging questions. But whilst we're on, I just wanted to say, if you could pop in the chat box where you're watching from, as in where you're watching from in the world, and also which platform are you watching from? Are you watching from Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook? And that would be brilliant to know. I can see Sharon is watching, Sharon Burrows. Hi, Sharon. So
hi,
come
Sharon.
and say hi to us on this lovely,
Yes.
what day are we on? Tuesday afternoon. So Shazy, thank you so much for introducing yourself. That's amazing. I've known you a little while, so I know all about you, but obviously we want to dive in deeper into your world today, because I think it's going to help us a lot with, especially in my accountancy world as well, and all my business connections and things like that. So can you, and obviously the title of this is Wellbeing, because we know it's well, a lot of people don't know this, but it's Wellbeing month this month. I didn't know until you told me, so thank you for telling me. But this today is all about well-being and mindful movement, and I'm not going to tell everybody what that is, because I want you to tell everybody as we go through, and the power of choice, which sounds very powerful anyway. But can you share your personal journey and how movement has played a big role in your healing and resilience, please?
Absolutely. And I think I'm going to talk about well-being in a slightly different way, because I am a childhood survivor. And just before I start to share some of my story, Bev, I do need to just let people know that there could be a slight trigger warning with some of the information that I may share that you may not have heard before. And if you do get triggered by any of this, actually in a way that's not so good, but actually you hear something, you think, yeah, that's great, then obviously do reach out to Bev and myself. Especially if I do say something and you are triggered, just let me know. I'd be happy to spend some time with you. But I'm really about a lived experience. I'm a lived experience consultant and coach, and that's what I motivationally speak about as well. So when I was 13 years of age, I stopped my dad from killing my mum. Wow. And then really from that moment onwards, the violence kind of stopped with my mum. But I then continued to get the emotional and psychological abuse because I'd actually stopped that from happening. So it had to come out a different way, right? Really, my journey begins at the age of 2 when I witnessed domestic violence, and I was that young. I remember it very, very clearly. Watching my mum and my siblings being hurt. My dad was also a diabetic, so at the age of 5, he would call me out of bed. So if you imagine how high you are or how tall you are at 5, you're just a little human being. But he would call me out of bed like Shazy, like Ozzy Osbourne, Sharon, and asked me to come downstairs when he was having hyper attacks because he was a diabetic type 1. And I would have to help him manage his insulin or glucose levels. And if you think, back in the day, so we're talking in the 80s now, I know I look about 21, Bev, but I'm a little bit older. Absolutely. And having to draw out insulin from an actual little bottle and flick the syringe and then hand it over, that's a big responsibility to have. And then secondary to that, and I call it secondary abuse because my grandma, so my dad's mum, would continually, she was very, there was lots of abuse from my mum, so lots of emotional and psychological abuse, but also for us as kids, she'd constantly tell us that we were never good enough, that we were never going to achieve anything and we would never get anywhere. And I kind of learnt later with my grandma actually to hand back the T-shirt and to hand back the labels that she once gave me. And I talk about that in terms of my speaking. But at the age of 4, I kind of came across we have choice. And I kind of understood choice amazingly at the age of 4, but I did. And I realised I've got 2 options. I mean, we shouldn't be making choices at 4 years old like this. But
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I've got 2 options. I can either let this happen or I'm going to fight. And I don't mean fisticuff fight. I'm
Yes.
talking about inner strength fight.
Yes.
And I did. I made a choice to fight back. So whenever my grandma used to say anything, like she'd run a finger across the fireplace and be like, look at the dust, I would say, Mum's just cleaned that, or she'd look at the floor and be like, oh, it looks like it needs hoovering again. I was like, she did that 10 minutes ago. So I would fight back as a young person and hold my own space, which is something else to talk about, Bev. But the way that this works with movements was that I didn't have the support. It was a very different era growing up. So the way that I managed my own well-being was through dance. So, I used to do a lot of dance, like part of my favorite tunes. We all know too well in this day and age that, we know that there's lots of different avenues in terms of movement. I'm not going to go down and say, oh, you should be going running or doing yoga. It's about finding what works for you and finding those. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm saying exactly. It's not about copying other people, is it?
Yeah. It's about doing what's right for you. And for me, it was dance. And actually, 15 minutes before I came on, I was moving and grooving, Bev, to Calvin Klein. So Calvin Klein released a video for Pride, actually, with 100% pure love. I've got it here if you want to hear it, because this is my little go-to.
Let's have a little taster.
Such a good little tune if you're looking to have a little movement between hangouts, people. It's one of my 90s tunes. Woo, woo. Yeah. So we'll
look at the smile you put on your face, though, by doing that, and I'm smiling as well, so it's a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think, movement is all part of your mindset. So even if you think I know that we're all really, really busy, right? But this is an opportunity that if you've got 5 minutes, maybe you're putting the kettle on, or like me, you're having a stretch and are looking out to sea, I will put on that song. Or I don't know if you've been watching Netflix, the Dallas Cowboys. I've been watching them for years, but like Thunderstruck, like you're doing the, I pretend I'm a cheerleader. Yeah. Thunder, ow! Or Chariots of Fire for the Olympics, just to, because this is a really good way of reframing your mindset as well. So if you're feeling a little, go on.
I quite like Madonna. I mean, I like a lot. I'm Robbie's biggest fan, but I quite like Madonna's 80s stuff. So if I listen to that, that is like automatically, the 80s Madonna stuff is really good for me.
I'm totally there. And Robbie, if you're listening, this is your biggest fan right here. You need to get involved and jump on the call.
Robbie's listening right now. Wow, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Just before we move on, we've got Sharon Ray. We've got LinkedIn user. I can't see your name on that. We've got a good old Frank watching on LinkedIn. We've got Sharon Burrows. We've got Nick from MB Accountancy. We've got Nikki Akokak, I think, watching on Instagram as well. So we've got quite a few people watching us. So hey, thanks everybody for being here. So thanks so much for talking about that, Shazy, and going deep into what you. Oh, and Christina's here. Hey, Christina on YouTube.
Hi, Christina.
So I mean, that must be difficult. I mean, I know you're a motivational speaker and you speak about this a lot, but that's still a lot for, like you said, a 4 or 5 year old to go through. But in particular, I've been in the accountancy world for a long time, 30 years, and I think this is like worldwide as well. It's not just in our industry, it's in all industries and stuff. But in my world, in my accounting industry and in life, we hear that phrase imposter syndrome. We hear it a lot, don't we? And some people don't know what it is, but they're experiencing it. Some people think they've not. Oh, Frank says he's watching, but no, hold on, I'll show you on screen. No dad dancing here. I bet you are.
I need to see the move.
I bet you are. But I think that when people say they haven't or they don't experience imposter syndrome, I actually think that they are kidding. Sometimes things are totally out of our control. But the most important thing is, because life happens, doesn't it? We can't always be positive all the time because we're just human beings at the end of the day. Things happen, things out of our control. But the most important thing for me is how we respond and act to these situations, and how quickly we can get out of that. So, Shazy, tell us about the role of choice, please.
Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting that you talk about things happen out of our control, and you're absolutely right. There are things that happen all the time that are out of our control, and really our focus it's always helpful, I would suggest, to look at what's within your control. So if you are in a place where you're just feeling stuck, where you're fed up, things just aren't moving as quickly as possible, or like me, you're just going through some really tough times, please just be kind and compassionate to yourself, and just throwing you lots of love out there. I'm quite a lovely person, as you can tell, but put your hand to your heart. But I think it's always about looking at what's within your control. How can you be accountable and responsible, in terms of moving yourself forwards? Even if you are just not feeling it, it's those baby steps. What can I do today to make, the difference moving forward? I call them like positive pushers. Give yourself a little positive push. And it may well be that you want to put on crystal waters, and it sounds like I've actually got to deal with them here, which I don't, pure love, and just dance around, because that is a great way to reframe your mind and to get you back up. I often, if I'm doing speaking, or if I'm doing, interviews, or something that's really important, and I want to shape the way that I'm thinking, I always turn back to music. I think I've got my own little, Shazy CD that I'm very happy to share if that's what you want. But it's
playlist. We'll have a listen to your Shazy playlist.
I don't charge. And, because that just enables you just to reboot and think about, okay, what choices have I got today? The other thing I say about choice, actually, and this is something I talk to my coaching clients around, is called noticing yourself. So, checking in with yourself, and ask, I call it a body scan. So, where are you today? How are you feeling? So how's your mind feeling? How's your body feeling? So, and also, how's your heart feeling? Because I think it's really good to be conscious of where you're at, what's happening for you in that moment, and what are you thinking about in that moment. Because if you can capture yourself, notice what you notice, it may well be that you can think, actually, I can make a different choice. What are the other options that I've got here right now? But it's by being aware of that, and then asking yourself that question. And we don't do that enough, because we're so busy running around, in the fast lane, but actually just taking some time out to connect. And that's why I do the body scan, because it just allows me to really understand what's happening for me in that moment. Will give you new information to work with.
That's really, really interesting. And I know I've seen you when you've been on stage before, when you've been doing your presentations and things, and you talk about labeling. And some of us that's watching this right now may have in the past or right now be living with a label. So can you talk to us about redefining labels and the importance of literally rejecting these labels that other people try and impose on us, and choosing our own identity through movement and mindfulness?
Yeah, absolutely. So you heard me talk about grandma, right? The one that likes to run a finger across the fireplace. Isn't that nice? You can't see it because I've got a lovely blur on. But when I was 4, she sat me and my sister down. So my sister was 3, and she put these photos out in front of us, and she was sharing the stories and these insightful memories and these cherished moments, I would say, about Ireland. And then she turned to me and my sister and then said, "But you're never going to go to Ireland. You are just not good enough. And you're never going to achieve anything." And I remember that. I actually didn't know, Bev, what that meant, but I remember how it landed just at 4 years old. And I'm like, sometimes I'm disbelief, 4 years old. But yeah, and I think it's recognizing, is somebody giving you a label. Often, you know, I was told I was a troublemaker for many years because I stood up to the bullies in my family. So I became a troublemaker. I'm not a troublemaker. I'm actually a really kind dudess. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, I can be a badass. Don't get me wrong, if I'm allowed to say that word on air. But you know, you can charge me later. But actually, I'm not any of these labels. And I think, you know, and sometimes we can give labels ourselves, especially if you're feeling imposter syndrome, which is something you mentioned before. And if you are comparing yourself to others, you know, if you're comparing yourself to others, if you're watching people in industry, if you're business owners and accountants going, look at what that person's doing, oh, aren't they doing amazing, I'm doing so bad, stop. And I mean, stop right now. Ooh, you know, and ask yourself, what are we doing in this moment? Coming back to noticing ourselves. Is it you that's telling yourself that you're not good enough because you're watching what other people are doing? Is somebody else telling you that you're not good enough? Or that you're too loud, or you shine too much, or you're not getting yourself out there, or you're not doing this? Stop and let's take notice and actually hand that stuff back, even if it's you giving the label, like, hang on, actually, wait a minute, I'm actually, and I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about you, the listeners. You are awesome at what you do. We all have the right to be wherever we are right now, whether you're a business owner, an accountant, a survivor like me. Do you know what I mean? Take back that control, own it, own your space. Nobody can be you, only you can be you. You know, it is your space, make it your space. Absolutely. You know, doesn't, and I feel like I've kind of got lost the idea is what I would say is, and hand that stuff back. And actually start being kind to yourself. Remind yourself of all the good things that you do, because you probably do some amazing stuff out there. And remember, in terms of identity, there are lots of layers to our identity. We're different in different ways. So you might be a parent, you know, you might be a guinea pig owner like me. I own a Coco in the corner there, who often scores me on my dancing, should I say. No, she doesn't. But there are many, many different versions, and it's about you being you. Yeah, labels are not jars. Yeah, labels are for jars, not for people. Nice one, Frank. Absolutely.
Nice one. Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? Yeah.
So if you are wearing a label right now, take it off. Please take it off, because
I think as well, Shazy, I've heard you talk about this before, and it's fascinating, this subject, but I've never really thought about ourselves giving ourselves a label. I've always thought of it was some other people giving it to us, but no, we can do that to ourselves as well. Absolutely, can't we?
Definitely, we can be telling ourselves that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
We can tell ourselves that we're not doing enough. Look at that person, aren't they successful? But you've got to remember, actually, what you're seeing is only a part of that person, and it's not always necessarily true. And they're only sharing a perspective. They're not sharing the whole, you know, like you said in the beginning, Bev, we can't always be positive. It's just not who we are as human beings. You know, there are people that are out there that are constantly, you know, surprised. But life is a roller coaster, and it's working with the ups and downs. And when you're feeling down, reminding yourself, I'm doing okay. I'm doing the best that I can today with the resources I've got. And just reminding yourself, please, you know, to give the labels back. Let's take the noise down. You know, don't worry about what anybody else is doing out there, you know, and concentrate on what you're doing. And I always think of the Olympians. We were talking about this morning, actually. You know, not all of them are actually running for a medal, believe it or not. It could be a personal best. I mean, you know, if they get the medal, woohoo, we're going to win a chicken dinner. But actually, they're really focused on their lane. And I'm not saying stay in your lane. That's not what I'm saying. But it's focusing on your journey. You've got your own stories. You are your own human being. You've got your own way in terms of nobody can take what you are away from you. It's about that. This is what I can offer as me. And I'm going to do it in a way that works for me as well. I think that's the other thing we naturally get caught up on. And I may be going off piece here, Bev. So tell me if I am.
It's interesting.
You know, we're often told that if you're going to be a success, you need to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, you know what? Great. If that works for you, getting up at 5 and doing a workout, you know, get thumbs up and I send you lots of love. That might not work for you. It
Don't
doesn't
work
work
for me.
for
Don't
me.
work for me. Doesn't work for me neither. Like you said, and you said not necessarily telling people to stay in their own lane, but I think it is in some respects. You need to. This is what I tell my clients as well. As long as you are getting better each and every week yourself, that's all that matters. Everyone's goals are different. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's dreams, aspirations are different. So, and I think social media plays a massive part in this, Shazy, doesn't it? Because social media is brilliant. Obviously, we can get out there, we can sell our services to the world if we're a business owner, which is great. But the flip side of it is we see everybody else as well. And it is human nature just to, it's natural just to compare ourselves. But it's like what you're saying now, it's how do we flip our mindset from that negative mindset into a strong bulletproof mindset, into thinking, they're them, this is me. And that's what we need to stop doing, stop the comparison. So what advice would you give to somebody who feels stuck? Is there anything else in addition to what we've said already about if somebody feels stuck with the sort of the hand they've been dealt with in life? What advice would you give to them?
I think if you are feeling stuck right now, take the pressure off yourself and take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because that just brings everything back into focus. In terms of, you know, what can we be grateful for? Hate to say, but it's true. What you know, you might have an amazing family out there. Businesses, I always find, is a bit slow in August anyway, but that could be just me. But I think it's just having those mindful movements. So making sure, like, for example, if I need to be creative in terms of my business, which often is the case, when I get stuck, it is those mindful movements. So getting up and putting some music on, having a boogie around the living room, or going out for a little walk. But I'm more about, like, let's have a quick 5 minutes of boogie in it, you know, doing Vogue by Madonna, September 1998.
So changing your scenery, basically. Changing your scenery.
It's reframing your state of mind. It's those mindful movements, thinking, right, okay, because you can't, it's really hard. Well, from personal experience, it's really hard to go forward if you're really stuck. So just going on, I'm going to, like you say, change of scenery, change of state, let me go do something else, will then enable you to come back, and you may find that creativity and be able to come back to finding a new way and just thinking, how do I, if I have that new way, how do I then break it down into small steps so it doesn't feel like I'm taking on a massive task today? And I think also reflection, Bev. So, like, I will say to myself at the end of the day when I'm doing my notice where I am, you know, my body scan, you know, what have I achieved today? And it might well be that I've just done a few mindful movements, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, I've achieved in a way that I call it achieving. Achieving is very different for everybody. And I think that's the thing to remember, is we're all different.
Yes.
You know, so what does achieving mean to you? What does success mean to you? In terms of your own mindfulness, if you're doing those body scans that I talk about, maybe there's some new information that you could work on in terms of looking at what's within your control, new perspective. How do I take that forwards?
That's totally, that's really, really good advice. Totally reframing everything. It just change the scenery, like you said, doing something a little bit different. And I always like to think, if I'm feeling like that, I like to just do something that I love. We all know, obviously, I love Robbie Williams, but I can't go and speak to him, can I? But, well, hi, Robbie, if you're listening. But I love spa. I love a spa. I love a sauna. I love a steam room. I've joined the local gym. I've been there for a few years, but I don't go to the gym. I just go in the sauna and the steam room and the jacuzzi. But for me, that's like my place that I go to. I go to it a few times a week. It calms me down. It relaxes me. I know lots of people in there now that I can chat to if I want to. If I don't want to talk, I don't have to. But it's just like, I can't take my phone in, obviously, because my phone is my life. I know that sounds sad, but it is, and it is for a lot of business owners. Everything's on there, but all my apps, because everything I do is in the cloud. But I go in there and it's like chill out time to reframe and stuff like that. So and more or less I go in the evenings, but there's nothing stopping me in the daytime. If I wanted to go and take myself on a little coffee date, for myself, for a cup of tea and a cake, or if I wanted to go to the spa or anything. And the thing is, no one's going to die if you need to take a couple of hours out for yourself. Do you know what I mean? No one is going to die. It's not life or death, but it's massive for you to be able to reframe your mind, like you've just said, Shazy, and to put yourself in a different environment, change of scenery, whether that's in your brain or physical change of scenery. But we need to do that, don't we? We need to look after ourselves, because if we don't look after ourselves, and especially because, you know, predominantly this is for business owners, but, you know, the business is you. Yeah, you might have got a team, but it's your business. So if you're not looking after yourself physically and mentally, your business is not going to thank you for it. It really, really isn't. You see so many people that burn out and the business suffers as a result. So you have to be kind to yourself, to be kind to everybody around you, and to be kind to your business and stuff like that. So it's so crucial that you do look after yourself. And like we said, if you need to take some time out, that's absolutely fine.
And if just to add to that, actually, if I may, Bev, sometimes I like on a Saturday, I will leave my phone at home. That I'm not going to tell you where I live, just like, oh, hello. But, you know, just having time out from the phone. Say that again.
I know where you live.
But having time out from, you know, laptops, phones, the TV, just is actually really good for your state of mind. And the other thing is especially if you're working alone, because I am an entrepreneur, I work alone, and this isn't something I did at the weekend, was to go volunteer with a charity that really resonates with what I'm doing. So, and this isn't about, oh, look at me, I did charity work. What I'm trying to say is it's just really good for your soul to be around like-minded people. And for 4 hours, 4 hours at the weekend, I just became that charity. It wasn't about me. It was a community. And especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, it was flipping amazing to be part of the Bristol balloon fiesta and actually see just everybody smiling, coming together, and uniting, because I think we need that more than ever. And just humans being nice and kind to each other in terms of that connection. So I think that's always a good thing. I know you said take yourself off for coffee, but also hang with people. Do you know what I mean? Come together with other business owners and be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm not having a great time at this moment. You know, talk to people. I think that's one of the things I didn't have growing up, but actually, you know, I did it on my own. But actually, if you've got somebody that you can work with and say, you know, even if you want to reach out and say, Shazy, you want to have a coffee, I'll have a coffee with you. It might be a virtual coffee, but I'll have a coffee with you. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's important that we do that even more and connect, because it can be a lonely world out there, especially if you're working on your own. So go find people, go do things that makes your heart sing.
Yes, very nicely put. I think when I had my accounting practice towards the beginning days, I ran it for 17 years, as you know, but like at the beginning, I think almost it was a sign of weakness to ask for help. You just needed to crack on and do it yourself. But that's not good. Like you said, this day and age, you need to reach out and speak to somebody. If you're that person and you shouldn't ever feel alone. You should always know that there's someone out there. Like I said, there's yourself, Shazy, there's me. Like with my coaching, I create small communities, no more than 10 people in each one, to build that trust up between us. So we had a call this morning, and I know on that call, any single one of us, including myself, feel confident and open that we can speak to each other on that call and know that what's said in the group stays in the group. And I don't mean to I'm not trying to make a joke of it, but it honestly is like that, because we all really understand each other. We all know that we're all working towards our own individual goals. And even though we all do the same thing, it's not competition, it's collaboration, and we're helping each other. So yeah, it is this having the time on your own. If that's you, I do like to have, I'm quite good in myself, because I do quite like being on my own as well as being in a group as well. So I quite like my own company, and sometimes that is all it needs. But I also likewise love being in a group with other people as well, and being able to help them and them help me as well. So it's about you again. It's all about you as an individual, isn't it? And what's right for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's about checking in, it's realigning, you know, what's right for me. We often ask outwardly what people think, but actually how often are you checking in and going, what's right for me right now? Do you know what I mean? What do I want? You know, how am I feeling? How am I showing up? Because actually often intuition or, you know, or the self-advice is there if you're listening to yourself. And it takes a little while if you've not done that before. But actually, the more time you spend with your time and the more time you ask yourself, don't get me wrong, it's always nice to talk to others and get feedback, but equally feedback from yourself, because actually 9 times out of 10, by listening to that part, you've got the answer.
So we've spoken about movement a little bit though. So, and you've said that it's a form of self-care and it's a tool for emotional healing. Can we just go over a little bit more about that? Because I'm really interested in that subject.
In terms of movement?
Yes. So in what ways can movement
I think
be a form of self-care?
Yes. I think any movement, because I think the way that we've, since post-COVID, we've become so working online these days. So we often don't move. I know sometimes you can be sat back-to-back to-back calls. So I think it's about making that consciousness stream in terms of having mindful moments to move. And if that could be you getting up and going for a quick walk, it could be doing a quick stretch, or it could be like me and dancing to my 90s vibes. Just saying, you're very welcome to join me for a little Miss Shazy motivating time if you want to. But I think it's also good in terms of it's lifting in those endorphins. So we know that, you know, if you're looking for creativity, and I know I get stuck, I'm just, you know, that's the first thing I'll go is work out. You know, whether that's doing a spin cycle, you know, that's one, or yoga, or just busting my moves around the house. Even when I'm cleaning the house, I'll be having a little, moving a groove. But I just think it's good for the soul.
We need to see you. We need you to video yourself when you're doing that for your social media. Because I don't believe you until I see it.
I'm also hula hooping. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'm not. But while I'm cleaning, woo! But I think you can. Yeah, it's just I've always just danced, to be fair, and I'm not talking about. They could be choreographed routines. I'm quite happy to do that, but it could be just that I'm styling it out 90s style. But it's just a good way just to boost yourself. And I think we all know getting out and changing your environment. It's even if it's standing outside the back door having a cup of tea. You know, those small changes can make such a huge impact in terms of how you feel.
Massive. No, this is really good. So all these, like you said, are small, mindful sort of movement practices that people that are listening can incorporate into their day-to-day life to, you know, if they're busy, feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed, you can definitely see how that would work. So Shazy, I'm really sorry, but we're coming towards the end, even though I could talk to you all day about this. But if for people listening to this episode right now, or people watching it later on demand, what's the number one tip? You've given us loads today, but what's the number one tip of everything we spoke about that if people are maybe struggling right now, what action should they take away from this show?
So I'm a big fan of being kind and compassionate. Put your hand to your heart and just remind yourself you're doing the best that you can with the resources you've got, and to give yourself a positive push. You know, what's the one small thing that you can do today, whether that be like me dancing around, singing to my guinea pig. Yes, it does happen, you know, in order to change the way that you may be feeling about a particular situation, or maybe you just need that boost, but a positive push in a direction that works for you in terms of enabling you to move forward.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you so much. And Frank says, no, don't end. We don't want to neither, but
you just want to see what dad has to use.
But thank you so much, Shazy, for your time. So I know you've not been very well today as well. So you've turned up not very well and given us so much information today. And it's really, obviously it's sensitive information as well, because people don't always like to say that they're struggling or feeling overwhelmed or things like that. Sharon from Instagram is saying thank you, Shazy. It won't show the comments on here for some reason, but yeah, I can see on the other screen she's saying thank you to
You're welcome,
Shazy.
Sharon. Anytime.
Thank you so much. And yes, if anybody wants to contact you, Shazy, how can they contact you if they want to speak to you afterwards?
That, you know, there's my email address, which is inspire@thechildhoodwarrior.co.uk, or on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram as the Childhood Warrior. Please do find me. Or there's my website. If you go to any of those platforms, you'll find that. Or equally, contact Bev. But if you do want to have a cup of tea and a deeper dive into anything that we've discussed, because obviously I can do that a little bit more with you and tailor make this the I don't know why I'm whistling, the conversation, a conflab, you know, then I'm having a funny five. That's what it is, Bev. You're very welcome, by the way, Christina. Then do get in touch, because I genuinely mean it. I'm more than happy to jump on a call and have a coffee and a hangout.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Shazy. And what I would really like is that everybody that's listening, if you all to do your little dance to whatever music it is that you prefer and like, do a quick 5-second video of it and send it to Shazy. She would love to see that, wouldn't you, Shazy?
Absolutely. I'm doing Thunderstruck right now, Billy. Thunderstruck.
What? You've got that in your ears now? Wow. Right, well, we will love you all and leave you all. Thank you so much for watching us, and stay tuned for my next BFF show. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.